our budget meetings on neighborhood services, I believe. Is that right, Dave?
That's correct, Mayor. That's what, so we got John and Jill and team and others.
Fantastic. I'm going to give everybody a moment to load on because it looks like we may be short some council members. Maybe just to make sure, perhaps could we call roll?
Jimenez,
Present.
Perales,
Here.
Cohen,
Here.
Carrasco,
Here.
Davis, Esparza,
Here.
Arenas,
Here.
Foley,
Here.
Mahan, Jones,
Present.
Ricardo.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Although apparently I'm named Henry Smith on the screen, but anyway. All right, thanks, Dave.
Yeah, so we're available for questions and comments on neighborhood services.
Okay, sorry about that. Any questions from the council?
And which would also include, so that would be library and public, portion of public works, a portion of code for PBCE. So a little bit broader there than just parks and library.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, for clarifying. So all neighborhood services and lots of departments. Okay. I had a couple of questions as well, folks are thinking about and getting warmed up. One related to the extent to which we're really depending on an awful lot of American Rescue Plan money for PRNS programs. And by the way, I appreciate very much the consolidation of our beautify efforts under one department and one director. I think there were lots of folks who are doing a good job in all the departments, but I think having a single person who's responsible and can move resources around to best meet the fast changing needs is, I think, really important. So I appreciate the city manager's office and John and everybody working together to make that happen. From what I can tell, it's about $11 million according to the budget that we're relying on of ARP money to get us through here. And I know that a big chunk of that is for beautify efforts, I think a little more than 7 million. And I know there's another chunk that is, I presume, for the, or actually was stated close to 4 million, I believe, for some of the activation efforts. And I'm wondering, was there other ARP money that we're relying on for PRNS services, or is it just in those two programs?
I think that's the bulk of it, Mayor. I think those are the ones that we currently have budgeted. So we do have some extension of a number of programs. So indirectly, the American Rescue Plan funds, help us continue some things that have been funded on a one-time basis to continue funding on a one-time basis, like Project Hope. Those 3 sites are Project Hope, like Police Activities League, Welsh and East Ridge programming. So, I don't think there's any more explicit in the budget yet reliance on American Rescue Plan for those services, but still a decent chunk that are reliant on one-time funding. That's a good way to characterize it, John.
Okay. And then, John, with regard to the funding that's there for the Abierto and the Viva Parks, I know it's a substantial amount, but it's only one time, which I know limits your ability to do a lot of extended work. And I guess the question is, given, I know we had challenges from the pandemic and getting out there and resuming maintenance and some of the work. And I think it sounds like we're pretty well caught up, but let me know if that's not true, John. At some point, I imagine if our goal is to try to encourage people to get out and use their parks more, there's going to be more demands on the parks, more maintenance needed. And can we look at that funding flexibly to potentially be able to move dollars over on some parks maintenance if that's what's needed, if we're really trying to encourage folks to get out?
Are you referring to American Rescue Act money?
Yeah, exactly.
I'd have to defer to Jim a little bit there.
Mayor, just to clarify, are you saying, so for the 4.2 that we kind of have penciled in for the San Jose Abierto program, which includes Viva Calle and Viva Parks activation, are you talking about that $4.2 million chunk?
Yeah,
or-
the activation money, because I imagine at some point, folks may be saying, hey, I'd love to, but right now my park is needs more love. And I'm just wondering if we have the flexibility to do that.
I think, well, I'll pull up a little, the backup there. I think, a decent chunk of that is related to some staffing, I think, John, right, for some of those.
Yeah, it's a fair amount of staffing that goes with it. 1.2 million of it goes to arts organizations. So sort of take that off the top. We're more like at 3 million on a programmatic level. And then it's 100 activations over the next year, park activations, and 4 Viva Calle SJs. So there's a lot of things we're going to do over the next year. I'm just not sure how we could use that money for maintenance, and then what wouldn't we do
Yeah,
in terms of those activations. Oh, it also includes 44,000 per council district for each council district to throw a festival or a fair or something.
right. Okay, well, thanks, John.
Sure.
Other questions from the council? Councilmember Arenas. Councilmember Arenas, you may be trying to talk right now, but you're muted. Councilmember Arenas, you're still muted if you're trying to talk right now.
Sorry, I don't know what was happening to my device here. Apologize for the delay. I have some questions under neighborhood services. Okay, so let me get myself centered. Earlier we heard from transportation, and one of the things that I've been talking about is engagement and how do we engage folks. And part of the memo that Councilmember Esparza and myself produced and was approved by council at the mayor's in the mayor's budget, along with the mayor's budget message, was a promotora program. And I wanted to see if we can give me a bit of a preview of that.
Sure. And I'll ask Deputy Andrea Flores-Shelton to step in a minute here. But the basics are we've mapped out 2 options. The MBA should be coming out soon. We're pretty much towards the final bit of it here. There's 2 options, one where we sort of more directly tie it to Project Hope and those activities, and one where we sort of manage it from a distance. Andrea, you want to give a couple details there?
Sure. Thank you, Council. Can you hear me? Great. Thank you, Councilmember Arenas. Yes, what we've moved forward through the CMO, as John mentioned, are 2 concepts for you. So what we heard loud and clear through this last year is really about how do we reach our hard to reach communities, and how do we look at it holistically also from a community development model. So what we've put forward is either a concept of a promotora, hopefully a multilingual resident leadership outreach and education approach that could be used, citywide and not tied to Project Hope. And it could be used for a variety of community priorities or issues. And that would be something that we would do a multi-year, because a one-time approach wouldn't really be effective. So that's concept 1. Concept 2 would be, again, a promotora contract, community-based contract, but really focused on enhancing in the existing Project Hope areas and being able to scale and build the leadership component, the resident leadership component in the existing Project Hope. So you will see that, and you'll have 2 concepts to react to.
Great, I appreciate that. I suspect that that each department should really have it, a promotora program. Transportation, it sounds like contracts out to a nonprofit, which really makes sense because some nonprofits are nestled into our communities and know those communities best because they've been providing services. And so I think not only I'm excited to see what these 2 prospects could be. But I think we need to continue to expand our engagement strategy throughout the city, as we've learned that I think this is one of the areas where we might need to work a little bit more in. I'm going to move into our library department. I know I've asked for a logic model. I think that's coming. There's two things that I really would like to see, and hopefully in this budget, is that we are engaging with our community to bring them into our library department. A lot of our families are, they self-select, they decide to go to the library as an alternative, either because they don't have the funds or for whatever reasons, or they just really enjoy our libraries because they're awesome. And I think what we need to do is engage our community that typically does not see a library as a resource, who we may want to, engage in, and probably are more comfortable in person rather than online. I'm still hearing from superintendents that even though they've made some progress with our parents on online capabilities, they're still not there in a way that will allow us to count on them to subscribe to classes and all of those things. So how are we moving towards that kind of a framework, Jill, where we are going out to the community and bringing them in?
It's a really good question. I think that the model that we have utilized in the past was working through trusted partners in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And having, we've talked a lot about what does a really effective outreach campaign look like, or outreach program, because I think you're right. We always talk about, we definitely want to serve our users, but how do we know who our non-users are, and how do we get them the awareness of the programs? And so I think in the, post-COVID, it allows us to kind of reset, because we have done so much work online, but we really do need to be thinking about how we're reaching out into the communities, and both utilizing our partnerships. I would just message John that, I would love to partner on the Promotora program. And I think we're open to further discussion about how to improve the partnerships and the outreach that we've typically done through things like our Makerspace ship. And, we do a lot of programs out in community facilities,
Mm-hmm.
in affordable housing, spaces, or malls, or other places where we might run into families and people who are not aware of our programs. So we've done a lot in the past. We're actually reinitiating conversation with a couple of local malls, one of which I really want to talk to you about is East Ridge. So we'd really like to sort of re-envision what does that look like once we're reopened.
I love that. And you know what, those in-person engagement events that we have, people look forward to them. And you know that in my area, especially around Welch and Meadow Fair, they're really a desert for agencies and services. It's not like they're, smack in the middle of the east side where Mayfair, someone's Mayfair may target them. They're a little outside of that boundary. And so because of that, they're always at the tail end of services. So I'm hoping to see budget line items that connect that, and making sure that we are providing those types of engagement opportunities for our families. Is what I'm ultimately looking for. Is I know that you've been working really hard through the logic model development, as well as just making sure that our families are connected to the library. And I'd love to see more of that happen. So I'm going to also ask a little bit about the childcare. I'm looking forward to the MBA on that and our after school programming. When do we project running out of CDBG funds that were dedicated to that? What is that looking like, and how are those funds looking?
We'll definitely get through summer. There's a lot of money moving around on various things, including the federal dollars and state dollars that may present additional opportunities to keep going. But we're anticipating by the time we get to fall, we will have to start bringing the fees back into the equation unless we're able to identify other sources of revenue. Andre, did you want to add anything to add?
Yeah. I would say, thank you. Yeah, I would say that actually the CDBG funds, we have included them in our scholarship for next year. So I think we should have covered the Rock after school. So Rock and Learn will go away. We won't be doing all day next year. We'll just be doing after school because of the assumption school will be back in session. But we will be able to utilize CDBG for next year's scholarship, anticipating still economic struggles for families.
And I'm guessing an expansion of that ROC program, because currently the ROC program is a cost recovery. And so they're at schools where families can afford to apply for that program and receive it. But in this case, I'm hoping that expansion of that program is targeting some of the Title I schools that typically can't afford to have that. I know that there's a lot of ACEs programs, and then San Jose Learns, but really wonderful San Jose Learns programs in our after school schools. But I'll talk specifically about my district and possibly other districts just like mine, that when you talk about Evergreen School District, it's not recognized as a district that has Title I schools. We have 7 Title I schools. And so you all know what that translates to. So I'm really hoping that we can expand to cover some of the families who are really hurting now that would never consider ROC. And then also moving a little towards San Jose Learns, now that I just triggered something that I was thinking about, is I know that there's a particular model over at Mount Pleasant that integrates what ACE's framework does, but they're also doing a kind of a hybrid with the Stanford research. And I can't remember the researcher's name, but what it does, it provides this feedback loop for the instructors to change their educational strategies with their children in the classroom in terms of tutoring. And I've always been hoping to marry ROC program with tutoring. And I think is really exciting. John, we talked a little bit about this. This is where I think some of our school districts are trying things out. And if it's working, let's take some of what they're working and see if it applies to other places, because it has obviously, the reading and writing and specifically math. And so I know in the last San Jose Learns update, there was a discrepancy between what white students and Asian students versus Latino and African Americans in terms of their academic improvements and learning losses. And so we know we see this in past patterns. So how do we address this? And this is part of race and equity, to see if there is a race factor, that we address that factor. And I think Mount Pleasant School District is actually doing a really good job in addressing that, because they have that feedback loop that I think in other schools is missing. So I know my time is up. I will raise my hand once again and continue to ask my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pros.
Yeah, thanks. And I just have a quick question and maybe pass it right back to Councilman Arenas. So my question was in regards to the Roosevelt roller rink staffing. I see a reduction there and some vacancies. Just was curious, it does say no impact on the current service level as anticipated. I wanted to make sure that there was still going to be an opportunity. And I know, John, you've been in email communications with our community partner that typically runs her program there in the roller rink in the summer, and I know she was interested in doing that. So is that still going to be a possibility, or does this affect any of those operations?
Yep, we'll be able to do it all. So I should say, no, it won't affect the operations, but we still have some grant money that the Sharks Foundation had given us to do some activation there. that we need to spend. So we thought we could absorb this cut right now because we were looking for little pieces of vacancies here, there, and everywhere to try to make our targets. So between us and our partners, our vendors, we'll definitely have plenty of activation there. And because we weren't operating, for the last year plus, we've got that savings from the grant. So we'll be okay in this next year.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, that's it. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Councilman Renz, you want to give us another run?
I will. Okay. Where did I leave off? I'm gonna turn to, so maybe we can have a conversation, Jill, offline about San Jose Learns. I've been connecting quite a bit with Mount Pleasant, as I think there is a great opportunity for us to bring tutoring and address learning loss through the programs that we have in the ROC program, and an opportunity to train the trainers with this model that Mount Pleasant has. So I'm going to move into the mental health services piece. I know that we all recognize the need for social emotional support for our children, and they will display some of that anxiety and trauma that they've had to kind of endure in this last year, either because of poverty or just being isolated. And this concern is going to translate into behavior in classrooms, and then from there it's going to cycle into teachers calling children out, and research shows typically that call out is for brown and Black children. And so I think we need to really nip this in the bud and add our piece. I know that county is mainly supportive, mainly responsible for this, but this is a pandemic that needs, this type of crisis needs all of us to do our part. And so what are we doing to incorporate social and emotional needs for children in our PRNS programs in this upcoming year, and maybe the same for library?
Sure. And Andrea, correct me on this if I'm wrong, but we are doing some training of our staff, I believe, on how to recognize these things and how to be responsive to them. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Andrea.
Sure. Yes, thank you. We're partnering with the county's Behavioral Health Services Department. I'm the School Link Services Coordinator. We just, House Benjenberg, Laura Buzo, we just met with the School Link Services Coordinator for the county, and we're going to set up a series of trainings that will be available not just to PRNS, but we will be opening that up to library staff, to really do everything from trauma-informed practices to also being really aware of what services we can refer our families to. There are some new and exciting services that are opening up, like in the downtown. It's called Alcove for young people. So we want to make sure that our staff are aware. We also have really improved our relationships with the school district. So if they are referring children to us that are struggling or have IEPs, individual educational plans, that we have a strong relationship back with the district to ensure that our staff are aware of what those special needs are. So we're working on it. And I would also say we do have our inclusion specialist who really has been on the ground responding all year to these special needs, and but it has been a challenge given the extent of it. So we're working on developing a stronger plan and a stronger relationship with the county to address those.
I really like that, and I have to just commend you and your staff for the integration of that referral system with our school districts has just been wonderful. It's allowed us to stand up our learning pods and really help the most neediest of those families, because they know them, right? They know who needs the service. And so that piece alone, I think, is such a huge improvement. And I think we'll see a lot of difference in upcoming years. One of the things that I know that the Evergreen School District is doing is wellness centers. And I know this is a best practice from Tony Thurman as statewide as a way to address some of the issues, social emotional issues that our children will face. Along with that is, parenting workshops or relationship-based workshops that could support our families. One of the things that I see as an opportunity, and I've spoken about this before, is when you have us parents waiting at a community center, or we visit the library, that we could also sign up for a workshop, a healthy relationship workshop, in a way that isn't taking too much time out of a very busy calendar. And it's kind of a captive audience. I would love to see more opportunities integrated into our PRNS department and our library department, in coordination with maybe some of these wellness centers that are going to be sprouting throughout all of our city, so that we can support our families. And one of the concerns that I have, and this is outside of what we're responsible for, but I think we have an opportunity to maybe support these families, because these are the families that typically, I would say, are middle-class families that enroll into a lot of our programs because they can afford it. And now we've kind of changed that profile because we have a lot of scholarship. So a lot of East Side, maybe San Jose Unified, Franklin McKinley, Alum Rock school districts, they're very well resourced. They have Alum Rock Counseling Center, they have Catholic Charities or EMQ, and they offer it a myriad of things like home visitation, therapeutic services, case management for children. But there's a gap. And the gap is it's the middle income, it's the middle class families that may not be doing as great, but certainly maybe they're not in overcrowded situations, but they're just barely making that mortgage payment or that rent payment. And so I'd love for us to also explore some of this gap, because I think it's primarily who's coming to our libraries, who's primarily using our community centers. And so we can talk offline, but I really would love to see a version of Triple P. I think you probably are familiar with this, Jill and John, from the Family Resource Centers. They just have a multi-level approach for the different needs of our families. Okay, enough of that. I am going to move into maintenance in our parks. What are we doing to plan for our drought that we appear to be kind of entering into? Is there something that we're doing now, John?
No, we're not doing anything different, actually. We are trying to keep things watered. We have gotten, as you're aware, we've gotten no guidance or orders or anything saying slow down your watering yet, although we're starting to see it in California. I think I just saw, I want to say it was Solano County, but I could be wrong, started restricting residential water use, in outdoor landscaping and things like that. If you look at the budget, you'll actually see we're getting a larger budget for water, but that mostly reflects the price of water. We're not really adding water to the budget. It's just more expensive.
Right.
But Avi, I don't know if you want to comment, Deputy Director Avi Otam, over parks, on anything else we might be doing.
Sure, John. Thank you, Councilmember Aranis, for the question. So as John mentioned, we haven't taken any actions to reduce our watering, but this year, in light of the $1.25 million reduction to our water budget that we did take in the current year that we're in, we have been monitoring our water usage very, very closely. And our team has been pushing forward on the installation of smart controllers for our water meters. And we've actually installed about 265 smart controllers and have about 27 more that we still have to investigate and evaluate for that conversion. And that tool will give us really precise remote control of all of our irrigation systems, so that should we need to pull back, if there's direction from the state or otherwise, we can do that pretty crisply. And in the months ahead, we have a plan to install master valve and flow sensors at 90 locations, which will again give us even greater control, so that As we have aging infrastructure in our parks, if there are leaks that spring, those sensors we're able to detect it and shut it off, preventing obviously water waste. So those are the measures that we're doing to really take a grip of our water use and prevent some of the waste that I think plagues us.
Wow, that is amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much for that response. And I'm going to also ask Public Works, in terms of their level of backlog in public works construction projects, and if this budget solves for that backlog or not. I know that it takes a couple of years for parks capital projects to move forward into construction. I've seen it in my, in my own projects, which when it does get done, is just absolutely beautiful. But is there a budget allocation to maybe streamline this and address some of the issues in public works that create this backlog?
Are you speaking generally, like all projects, or specific to watering?
I was talking about parks capital
Just
projects.
in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the budget you have in front of us still notes a sizable, very big backlog that's not getting addressed. Nicole Burnham, our deputy over capital, is here. I don't believe anyone from Public Works is here to answer this. I see Jay, but
John, this is Matt
there's
Kano.
Matt. I
This
see.
is Matt Kano, Public Works, but Nicole can probably answer it better if she's available.
Yeah, she's here. Nicole.
So as we're waiting for that, Matt Kano, Director of Public Works, I agree with what John said. There is still a sizable infrastructure backlog. We had a report to the Transportation Environment Committee earlier this year. While we are recommending some infrastructure backlog projects in the parks capital budget this year, there still is a sizable backlog of projects that we are not funded to complete in the park system.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering how do we address that backlog? I don't know what the issue would be at the center of this, but I know that when we talked about like abandoned cars and things of that sort, what we did is we had a contractor come in and do a piece of the process so that we can relieve some of that backlog. I don't know if there's a simple fix like that, but if there was a fix that we could address during the budget years, this budget cycle, it would be great, as sometimes, and to review some of these projects in an equitable way, because there are some communities that have been waiting for a really long time.
And if I could, council member, and just John and Matt, I think what I'm hearing from the council member is a little different question. It's not so much about the infrastructure backlog. I think the question is more about funded projects that are kind of in the queue that we're trying to move through. If you can correct me, council member, if I'm wrong, but I think that's So John and Matt, maybe we can kind of talk a little bit about the queued up funded projects.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
Sorry about that.
And maybe using contractors, and we have had some of those discussions, by the way, about is there a way to speed up, especially some of these smaller ones, like a playground and things like that. That we get behind on. We got behind on a lot of projects over the last year because of COVID. A lot of the staff that delivers some of our minor capital stuff, they were in and out with various things. So we're definitely behind. I believe our capital group has about 150 active projects in PRNS right now, capital projects. So it's a lot to manage. This budget does not do anything particularly to address it. It does keep our a capital improvement team intact and funded for another year. So that's a good thing. We did some changing of some of the staff to better manage some of these projects. We had someone retire, so we were able to start switching around some positions to try to be more organized about it. But there's no big silver bullet answer here that gets us to speeding up dramatically.
I would, and this is Matt Kano again, and sorry for misunderstanding your question. Thank you, Dave, for that clarification. We do feel moving forward, we're staffed pretty well for projects that are fully funded to get going on them right away. We don't have for projects that, again, are fully funded for design and construction. we don't have a big queue of projects waiting to start right now. So we'll take a look and we'll dive into kind of maybe the District 8 specific projects with PRNS to see if there's anything that we're missing here that we can go a little quicker on.
Thank you so much, Matt. I mean, I think it would be, and I appreciate that, but I think it's a systemic issue, maybe that we need to take a look at. And like you said, John, there could be that retired employee piece, or having a contractor come out, maybe do it even less for less than what we would. I just would love for us to make sure that during this budget, we take a look at what we need to do, have that in place to streamline this. So I appreciate your responses. And if the mayor will allow me, and my colleagues will allow me, I just have one more question. But I will wait.
No, go ahead. I don't see anybody behind you in the queue, so.
Yeah. So the other piece is the status of the workload right now in the Office of Equality Assurance. And I know that Matt, you were able to secure a online system to be more expeditious about our some of the paychecks that are coming in from our contractors. So how is that system? Does it need any additional funding? Is that it? How are we doing, I guess, in terms of that particular workload and in general workload of the Office of Equality?
Thank you, Councilman, for the question. Matt Kano again, Public Works Director. So that pilot kind of database that we set up with the vendor, it was a good lesson for us to learn this past year. We are taking a hard look at that system right now. It has taught us a lot of good things about not having to rely on paper as much as we used to in the past, and big stacks of paper in the offices. We are looking at possibly evolving from that system into a more automated system using traditional means like Outlook and file storage with our contractors. So we're definitely not going back to paper, but we are evaluating whether that system stays, or we continue more with other ways of file storage. In the future, we may want to look at one of the more traditional systems that are out there, but those are pretty expensive. We feel good right now that the electronic paperwork storage systems that we're using are helping our staff. And we are in this budget process. We're able to identify revenue from our minimum wage enforcement from our partner agencies. And we are proposing a senior analyst be added to the team using that revenue in this budget process. That will help us get our head above water a little bit in the workload of the equality assurance staff. So we are looking forward to adding that level of staff, a little bit of staffing to this team.
Oh, that is really good to hear. I know it's kind of hidden behind the scenes here, but it's absolutely essential. So I really appreciate that. And I think that's it for me. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for all of the responses. I really appreciate it, and all of the really great work.
Thanks. John, you just raised your hand. Did you want to respond to something else?
Sorry, Mayor, I hit the wrong button there. Thanks.
Oh, okay, I've done the same. Hey, John, well, I got you. I know this isn't the most obvious budget question, but it seems to have come up a bit more recently. And most recently this weekend, when I was at Plateau Arroyo Park and with some community members, and there had been because we've had tragically, obviously we've lost people in traffic accidents, in particular skateboarders, commemorate the loss of their friends in various ways, as you see now at Plateau Arroyo, where they've taken over one of the trees to honor a fallen friend. There were questions about, hey, could we maybe find ways that are more constructive for the community to be able to express the loss? And there's desire to have a mural, for example, painted over the wall of the bathroom. If community members want to engage in those kinds of efforts, how do they best connect with your office to be able to say, hey, if we gathered a group and we did it with the city, can we do this together?
Yeah, we would work together with them in OCA, because they, they approve the art or procure the artists, those kind of things. But we're very open to that, particularly for something like a bathroom in a park like Plata Row, which is going to see its fair share of graffiti.
Okay.
There should be a mural up. We did commission one there. I'm not sure if there needs to be another, or did you see another blank wall? There should be one over on the bathrooms.
I may have missed it. It was on the, so it may well be there. I just didn't see it. So,
Okay, but yeah, we're happy to work. We've actually been doing a few different improvements there. I don't know if you're able to see some of those, but we're trying to sort of reestablish the historical, there was an emergency siren and just sort of a plaque and talk about what it was from back in the day, and some of the history that's there in that park. So we're doing little bits and pieces, but we'd be happy to look at murals as well.
okay. Thank you, John.
Sure.
Councilmember Mahan?
Hey, thanks, Mayor. Hi, John. My understanding from a conversation we had a while back is that there might be less funding in this upcoming budget cycle for the integrated pest management, which is certainly a huge issue in District 10 parks, as I'm sure is the case in many other areas. We're out there fighting the ground squirrels every day. I didn't see that reflected in the budget doc I was looking at, and I just wanted to confirm whether or not that funding is decreasing, staying flat, or what the status is.
Yeah, so the way it is in the budget currently, it will end on June 30th. It was funded through the end of this fiscal year only.
I see.
So, but I will just let you know, we have received 2 BD requests to price it out and or consolidate. If you remember, we had a integrated pest management and a turf team. Sort of the integrated pest team goes in, gets rid of the pests, and then we repair the turf so that it's good and playable. So I think there's one that says combine those, one that says price them. So we'll put some pricing out there for the council to consider.
Great. Okay. Thanks for the update.
Sure.
Okay, other questions?
Mayor, if I could jump back in on your first question you asked regarding American Rescue Plan funding for parks, and Rhea kind of reminded me that, on May 17th, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but there will certainly be some programs that PRNS will be responsible for, probably transition to recovery, food being a good example. So the ultimate adopted budget will probably have more there, although those are probably more specific to the community and economic recovery items as opposed to more the traditional parts operations. Is that right, John?
Yeah, and if I could add, a bigger one that's more directly related to park maintenance, right, is the resiliency core stuff. So there's quite a bit of that in there. We've been, Avi's been leading a group along with Jeff Ruster, sorting it out and who's going to sort of be the employer of record and how are we going to disperse people. But this will definitely help in some of our parks, certainly.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I completely understand all that, or appreciate all that. I guess what I was referring to was in the budget summary, so it related more to core functions, and I saw a big number of 11.8 million pop out, and that had me a little concerned because, as we all know, that money is fleeting. So I just wanted to understand what else might we be funding with American Recovery Act or plan money that we need to think about for future years. And it sounds like it's primarily on Beautify and Viva Parks in terms of ongoing.
Yeah. Effectively, we've got kind of like 3 years to figure it out. Like, how are we going to fund this? One of the things, Marion, we've talked about this with the council, and we've gotten some direction from council to pursue, of course, is a ballot measure in 2022.
Right.
That would be an operating fund. That's what we'd be looking for. And in fact, before the pandemic, where we were still doing polling, thinking about the last November ballot, we were asking people about cleanliness and trash service, and they were responding at rates above 2/3 to those in a positive way. So that may be a mechanism by which we get there. Not sure yet.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, John.
Sure.
All right. Other questions? Let's go to the public and see if there are any questions about neighborhood services, which includes libraries, parks, code enforcement, and lots of other things we all care about. I see no hands. Oh, Mr. Beekman, you had a hand for a moment. Did you?
Yeah, my hand was up. I don't know why it clicked off, but thank you very much. To continue my theme for the day, thanks for your patience for my theme of the day, but to try to offer quickly. I don't mean to be startling with my words about preparing for a natural disaster. I mean my words to be as part of how we can develop an open conversation. Yourselves have been doing actually a really good job as city government to share that with the public. I hope we can learn to return that as the public in favor, in kind, and we learn to work on it together, and it becomes a more open, easier subject to talk about. Thank you for your attempts to do that. For this item, I guess first off, I wanted to consider, there is technology issues and IoT issues that you were talking about, and a reminder of good open public policy practices. There'll be affordable housing ideas that you may need to address as neighborhood services. And I just wanted to remind of the good work of mixed income ideas. I've tried to speak about, I think, how mixed income can really help the present ADU situation or zoning situation with single family homes. I'm interested if mixed income can be an interesting way to address that issue. And just to mention it here, I hope I can be of help at this time. I also wanted to mention that, in the future of housing issues for the flea market, I really think you're going to have to involve the vendors in the future of however the flea market is developed, if at all. And you're going to have to take your time about the process. I like it the way it is, but try to really involve the vendors. I think that will create community harmony. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, returning now to council. Okay, Dave, we're moving pretty good clip here.
Yeah, so next is strategic support, which is finance and HR and IT and the remainder parts of public works, and also the appointee offices, so the clerk and attorney and auditors in my office.
Okay, we'll let everybody turn the pages of their binders. So we got all the support services as well as all of the appointee offices. That's IPA, city attorney, city manager, auditor. That's a lot of folks. Okay. Let's go first to the council for questions. All right, while folks are thinking about their questions, maybe I'll go to the public and see if there are comments or questions from members of the community. This is on support services and council appointees. Mr. Beekman.
Hi, Ware Beekman. To round out the day of, I don't know, my own public comment about, the future of natural disasters in the Bay Area is not everything to consider, but it is a portion that I thank you for allowing me the patience to speak to at this time. I think the mayor and David Sykes, they talked about in the beginning of this meeting, what exactly are we doing for the future of the city at this time? What are we expecting of ourselves? And I feel if natural disaster preparedness is important for the next few years, that's going to somewhat limit ourselves. I mean, it not only limits, good creative potential, it builds, activist potential and the ideas, real good ideas of defund and equity. But yet, if we're considering openly natural disaster preparedness ideas, then we start to maybe talk more openly about what can be equity and reimagine within the terms of upcoming natural disasters. And that's the sort of conversation I want to be hoping we learn to develop that I think you guys really are. And I'm adding to that right now. I hope we can all continue to add to that right now and just make it relaxed and casual and regular and every day. And if we do that, then we're developing something amazing. We're preparing for possible harm in the next few years. And that way we protect ourselves and we're taking care of each other openly. And that's an important skill that we may be learning at this time. I hope we learn to develop that. And then we can talk about equity better and reimagine better. That's my hope. So yeah, well, I can go on and on about this. Yeah, that we think in those good terms now, and we come out of the natural disaster time in better shape. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, back to the council. Any questions? I'll throw out a couple because, well, folks are thinking. I had a couple questions for Rob to put you on the spot here on IT. One was, I believe it was last year. Gosh, all the years are blurring together now during the pandemic, but it may have been the year before, where council authorized through the budget message launch of an effort to really see if we could build capacity in-house in the city for project management for implementation of software solutions. We knew that was a huge pain point for us in past implementations. And so we were gonna, I think, create sort of an army of a half dozen or so project managers who would be really focused in that space. And I was wondering what is our progress in that regard?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, you and council put some resources behind that. We got up to 9 positions, and the impact of that has actually been positive enough that, for example, you'll see in the budget that the housing department for their housing technologies said not only do we like this a lot, we want to pay for part of the position so we can get that dedication of time. So we've now taken on about 60 projects a year, and our project success rate is in the mid-80s.
That's tremendous, because I remember it was awfully low when we started.
Yes, under 5% originally.
Yeah, so we went from under 5 to over 80. That's fantastic. So great to see that's gone so well. Thank you for your work and the work of your team. Second question related to a discussion we had at the Smart City Committee. I think it was last week, and you described, and I may have it wrong, so you'll have to correct me on this, but essentially our tech debt on the kinds of basic IT systems that we need for lots of support services, ranging from budget to HR, and it was somewhere on the order, I think you used the term 30-ish million.
Yeah.
Could you just be more specific? So I don't know if you
Absolutely.
described it properly.
Absolutely, Mayor. So in our deferred maintenance infrastructure backlog, we've identified a number of systems that, while we've updated them, they're still 20 going on 30-year-old technology. That the departments have told us holds them back. So in terms of the currency of the financial information, how we can hire people, the budget system, and how much labor that takes to produce the budget. I'll just give Jim and Claudia and Bryce and Bonnie a world of credit, because it's a Herculean effort and they actually have to do a lot of manual work to close some of those technology gaps. So we've identified in that deferred maintenance infrastructure backlog some future investments we have to make to modernize our systems, not just update the old, but to actually replace with something that's going to support the city and how it wants to do things that are more transformative, not just plain old traditional technology.
Right. And I know more and more demands are being placed on all of those systems as we're demanding, for example, equity analyses relying on data, or dashboards in budgeting and in performance. All that requires having all that IT infrastructure in the back end to support that. Is that right?
It is, Mayor, and part of that also that we have to communicate well is there is some shoring up of the organization that we have to do before we head into these types of replacement projects, because we have to have the depth, we have to have people with a lot of expertise and who know the business processes really well and the technology really well. So there is, I think Julia and Luz can confirm, there's some assessment money in the budget for doing an ERP assessment of how we would approach that problem, and then what the dollar amounts are, possibly through an RFI, so we can come to council and to the city manager's office in the future to say what that kind of investment would look like with hard numbers.
Okay. You mentioned Luz and Julia. If either one of you want to jump in, feel free. If not, I'm happy to take the answer and keep going.
Yeah, I mean, there is money in the budget. We just haven't had time to issue an RFP to bring a consultant on board to help us at this point. So hopefully fiscal 22 will provide us some more bandwidth.
Okay. Appreciate that. I guess you anticipate my next question, which was around budget for this, because you know, the good news is this is theoretically, a lot of this is one-time money we could be spending that could produce ongoing benefit in terms of improving productivity, nothing else, enabling our employees to get more sleep, and to be able to work more effectively and better serve our residents. And so I saw, I believe, a $2 million set aside for essentially what was capital replacement and sort of that reserve, which I think that came from the budget message. Then as I look at the IT budget and just the department, there's a slight increase, looks like about $1.5 million, but I didn't see anything that reflected any big share of that kind of investment. Is it elsewhere in the budget?
Yeah, Mayor, the reserve is in, there's a section called the general fund transfers and reserve sections where the $2 million for the IT sinking fund sits.
Okay.
And so the departmental budgets don't include the reserve amounts. So
Right.
it excludes like reserves, transfers, and fund balance.
Got it. Okay. So that's the sinking fund, but that's for existing technology. That's not necessarily for whatever investments we need to make in some cases, right? So I guess the question is, is there anything in the city manager's budget at this point that would take a significant bite out of that 30-ish million tech debt that we have to support our basic infrastructure and systems?
And they're based on the committee's feedback last week. I have a to-do to connect with Jim. I left him alone for this week because of the budget presentation, but I do have a to-do item to try to sync up with him and see if we can answer the questions that you and Councilmember Mahan asked last week.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it. I know that this is stuff is complex, and I know we have to often go get consultants just to figure out what we even need to do because the technology is moving so fast. I just can't help but wonder if this is a moment in time when we do have one-time money and we're probably never going to be flush in ongoing money. This might be a moment for us to think a little bit about at least taking on some amount of that investment. And I guess it raises the next question, which is probably for Jim or for Lee. Do we have any sense about whether ARP money could be used to address tech debt?
I don't know the answer to that yet. And then Luz has dug into this a little bit too, and then we can bring her into the fold.
Yeah, I would defer to Luz. She's been our lead in reviewing at least the interim guidance today.
Luz, you got the hot potato passed to you.
Of course. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Yeah, actually looking at it at first glance, this is infrastructure. So this is an eligible cost under ARP. We might also want to wait a little bit, just a little bit, to see what comes out in the larger infrastructure bill that's coming out. But as far as the ARP, the American Rescue Plan that was just signed, yeah, this looks like it's an eligible cost. We'll give you a definitive by the end of the budget session.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate all the answers and information. All right, Council Member Perales.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Quick question here in regards to the Office of Racial Equity Staffing. It states that the action for this budget will add 4 positions. How many total staff will that make in the Office of Racial Equity?
Yeah, thanks, Councilmember. So in essence, what we're doing is last year the team was funded with one time. So this just puts the team in the ongoing status. So I do think the overall team number is 4. And I don't think if Zulma's on, or Lee, could you confirm that? I'm fairly certain of that answer.
Yeah, so yes, it is 4 within the Office of Racial Equity,
Yeah.
But also encompassing that team is also the Office of Immigrant Affairs, which has an additional 3 positions. So it's a total of 7 within the office.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was curious about. That I couldn't, in any of the language I was reading, it didn't specify that this action was making those 4 positions permanent. It was stating it that it adds. So I was curious if that meant it added to the positions. That's clear now that it doesn't. It just makes those four ongoing, which I do appreciate. I did want to hear though. I don't know. Is Zuma on? No,
I don't see Zoma on.
I know we're ahead of the game. This was like
Yeah,
a
but that's,
4:30 item.
what's
but-
your question though, council member? We can,
So my interest is to know sort of what this staffing, if it's equivalent to what it was this current year, and then moving into the year ahead, considering you will be coming out with an MBA on the work plan. I'm just curious that, right, is this staffing sufficient? Is there a more urgent need for additional staff? I think there's a lot that we have thrown at this office right out the gate, and quite frankly, I think a lot of it is very, very important work. And I know from some of my colleagues as well in the discussions we've had over the last couple of months, and things that we want to continue to maybe throw at this office. I'm interested in hearing what that staffing model looks like, and is it going to be sufficient? And we may be able to have the conversation once the work plan comes out. But unfortunately, right, this is the time to dive a little deeper. So that's what my question was going to be for Zulma specifically. But happy to hear your answer, Dave.
yeah, so I certainly, we do have an ambitious work plan. I do appreciate the MBA's not out yet. And, I do think, obviously when it comes to the general fund, we were working within a number of constraints, including reduction targets for every single department and every single office. So, what we've done here in terms of making this ongoing was, it was quite a feat to pull it off, to be honest. But to really get to the root of your question, I do think that the four positions will position us properly to be able to advance the work plan. Now, obviously, there needs to be buy-in on the work plan, and if the council believes that the work plan is inadequate, and I don't mean that to put that as a negative word, but just we're looking to do more, then obviously I think we would need to resource it to be able to meet those expectations. But I do believe that the four positions will allow us to advance the work plan.
Okay, and I'll give an example. So one thought that I'm having, and just all I'm going off of is the details I can read in the current document, since we don't have an MBA out yet, talking about integrating an equity framework into decision making and operationalizing the practice right into daily work. I think, and I didn't, there's 2, 3, 4, and 5 on that list there, and none of them specifically mention anything about the entirety of the budget process, which I know that that's some work that the Office of Racial Equity was engaged in already this year, and that's something for me that's definitely important. I don't know if I would assume that that's to be included in the integrating into the framework of decision making. It's a pretty broad term, so I think it could, but that's something specifically that I think I'd like to see before next year. And so that was an interest. The other interest would be, I think, something that the American Rescue Fund dollars should be able to be used for, and that would be in the recovery task force and the work that may come out of that as we begin to identify some specific needs that are drawn from our community, and then specifically from communities, low-income communities of color that have been disproportionately impacted. And my guess would be we may want to lean on the support from this Office of Racial Equity, and I believe that would be above and beyond some of what we're looking at in their work plan for the next year. And I do believe that we could maybe chip off some one-time dollars, even if it was just for the next year or 2 years, and that could come from the American Rescue Fund. And so that may be in addition to, and that could help. I see that there's a little one-time ask, but it's for non-personnel services of 100,000. So that would be the other thing, and I'm happy to hear from Jim on that as well, if he thinks that if there is flexibility there. Again,
and
if
I
it
think
specifically relates to recovery.
If I could, council member, so that second part is definitely, I don't want you to feel like this is the last opportunity. Monday, we will be talking about those monies and how we spend those monies and how equity is involved. And And so that discussion is still ahead of us. And we will definitely have the MB, Office of Racial Equity MBA by then. But that discussion on Monday is exactly what we plan on having with you all.
Okay, I appreciate it. Obviously, again, I think Jim made this very clear in the conversation early yesterday that there is an expectation that there will be potentially significantly more ads coming out of that American Rescue Fund, and so this is obviously something that I see there's a need. It's just not there right now, so it's not included, and that would be something that I personally would like to see included, and that could then boost some of the resources, and more importantly, not take away focus from the work that we're going to be expecting them to do ongoing. And so that'll be something we can discuss on Monday, and that's it for me. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. I just for everyone too, I don't want to leave the impression that we're going to have all the answers on Monday. So it's truly kind of engaging you all. You obviously get our thinking, but we're certainly kind of coming to the realization that there's still a lot of unknowns for us on the federal money and how we line things up and how we take advantage of different pieces of that. I think just need to prepare ourselves for the fact that even on Monday, as I think we're all looking forward to that conversation, we're probably not going to be able to solve everything on Monday. And I think that's totally okay. And so, I just want to kind of put that out there.
In that context, Mayor, if you don't mind, if I just add one more piece, if that is the case, and we think that maybe, a week or two after, Monday, following Monday, we may be in a better position to specifically discuss the American Rescue Fund dollars. I'm curious if that's something that we want to insert into these budget deliberations versus just, have the next more formal conversations at the council when we're actually adopting the budget. This is a significant amount of money. It's specifically meant, right, to help aid through the recovery efforts of the most significant incident to happen to us in our lifetimes. And so I think, right, if we don't have maybe enough to fully deliberate on Monday, I would like an opportunity to be able to maybe do so again as a council over the next couple of weeks if we think that would, if we're going to have more information by then. So I'm curious on your feedback on that, Dave, and yourself, Mayor.
Yeah, and I think I think what we're kind of coming to realization is that I think, it's the next few weeks, and it may even be after the budget is adopted that we may need to kind of think through things. I think Lee is hearing that some other agencies are actually putting off this discussion for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different funding streams, and what we want to make sure is that we're addressing the needs of our community and we're taking advantage of all the moving pieces. And if there's some, I think, thinking that if we move a little too quickly here, we may be doing a disservice to our own residents. So from my standpoint and the teams, I think we should be prepared for maybe that allowing that discussion to kind of mature over some time. But Sam?
Yeah, I know, I agree. And I've had this conversation with Dave and the team recently, recognizing the county's actually putting off their decisions around allocation of that funding until the fall. It really, we're going to be learning a lot and making the decisions with all the information rather than part of it, I think will be very much to our advantage, particularly since there's still federal legislation in the pipeline. And there's a state budget out there that's going to be allocating an awful lot of money, for example, to homelessness. Being able to respond well and fill the gaps rather than getting out there and starting to spend money where other money already might have existed. I think we all recognize the benefit of having more time. So I would say more than a few weeks, maybe a few months.
Okay, thank you. No, I do appreciate that, and I agree that it would make most sense to try and fill the gaps, especially with some of these unknowns. I think there may be, as we've already discussed in the budget, what's being presented here, there may be some things that are more clear cut, and we decide here is a good use now. But I think for those things that are a gray area, I'm also not interested in rushing that conversation. I don't want to wait too long, but at the same time, I think if really we're thinking a few months from now, we'll have a better indication at a federal level and at a state level on where those gaps are, then can we set up a process to be able to act quickly, right? With what we have resourced here locally. I would agree with that, and maybe that's something we can talk a little bit more broadly about on Monday, because right now I think what all of us are looking at, and what I was thinking was that Monday we're going to have a discussion that might be one of our last opportunities before we adopt the budget, and then just what we adopt in the budget, and then that kind of that's it moving forward. So I'm happy to hear that, Mayor, you've been having a conversation with the city manager and staff, and that actually the thought process might be we move a little bit more strategically, similarly to the way that the county has looked at this, and maybe we hold off on some of that decision making. Thanks.
Yeah, fair point. And emphasis probably on the word some, because some money we will probably need to spend, but certainly this we may not. So, okay, other questions? All right, we'll go to, Council Member Arenas.
Yeah, I just snuck in there. So I wanted to ask a bit about what we learned last year through the MBA around race and equity, Dave, which outlined some of the areas that we know that we need to work on, and how are we addressing that under this strategic support, because they were very, there were infrastructure issues in terms of the way we collect data. We don't have a integrative data collection system so that we can actually make decisions based on race. And then I think training was the other piece. And gosh, off the top of my head, I can't remember what the last one, but I know there was 3 areas of concern. So how are we working on that? Is there a line item in the budget that is going to move that along into maybe the next steps?
Councilmember Arenas, I think I could answer your question. So the MBA that you're going to see shortly, which relates to the Office of Racial Equity, the operational work plan, basically provides the framework that you're all familiar with through the last study sessions around the first important step is normalizing, then organizing, and then operationalizing. And so in that work plan, and what we learned through the last MBA was that we need a lot more training. And so we also learned that we need a lot more practice. So there's one thing to go through the trainings, but it's also being able to practice this and exercise that equity lens and that equity muscle so that we're asking the right questions. And then another series of things. So the work plan, I think, will be able to answer some of your questions regarding the next steps for us, which will be around training, standing up the office. So the good news is that I have replaced the assistant to the city manager, but basically the immigrant affairs manager who just started last week. The new racial equity manager will be starting in a couple of weeks. I've already hired the staff specialist. So that's part of the infrastructure, is standing up the office. And then the other piece of the infrastructure is making sure that as we are strategic support partners to all the departments, and ideally the larger departments, and many of them already have racial equity teams. So that's part of the infrastructure, and that's part of organizing. The operationalizing is the piece that will also be included in the work plan that you're going to see, or that is included. And so what we learned in the last MBA, just to kind of close up and loop it back to your questions, was that there's a lot more training that needs to happen and an understanding of these concepts, and that the one-off trainings aren't going to be enough. The good news is that we've gone through an RFP process, and we'll be negotiating those contracts so that we get some consultants on board that will help us with the phasing in of the training citywide.
And if I could add just a little bit, Councilmember, I think just talking philosophically for a second. It's kind of two sides to a coin here. There's no doubt that COVID kicked our butt, and we're kind of not necessarily where we wanted to be on some fronts here. On the other hand, we are night and day away from where we were. Just when we have the conversations as senior staff and we talk with the organization, we have come so far on the equity front in terms of our capacity to talk about and really thoughtfully put equity into our approach. So I don't know. It's those two things sound a little contradictory, but they're both true. So certainly there's progress that we wanted to make that we're a little behind on. But on the other hand, I'm super proud of kind of how far we've come and what we've been able to accomplish. So I hope that makes sense, even though it is a little contradictory.
No, I get it. I think as a system, we are still behind in terms of training, in terms of data collection systems and operationalizing these concepts, as Sunil was stating. But I understand what you're saying because it's what has gotten us here is this social discussion. And unfortunately, some of these tragedies that have happened nationwide that allowed us to have this kind of conversation that has, and I think it's self-growth in a lot of our directors, and that genuine want and need to follow this conversation and be in a more comfortable place. And so I think that has allowed us to move forward. And earlier I was just talking about the transportation department and how proactively they are asking folks to be on their task force, to give them feedback, and then their services are a little bit more black and white, and so they can probably easily do that, right? I'm not saying that they we should all learn from them, but that there certainly are some steps ahead, and I wouldn't expect that in the transportation department, right? I just wouldn't expect that in that department. But like I said, their services and the way that they are just and their product is a little bit more black and white. But so I would like to see in that MBA how we would adhere to some of that training. How would we ensure that some of that we all agree on metrics, and I think Councilmember Esparza and myself, we put out a memo that talked about that, and we have certain metrics there that our council mates all agreed on, and so I want to make sure that those are acknowledged, as well as past memos from this council as policy guidance for the department. I know the work plan is still, it is still in the making. It's by no means done. And so that is exciting because it allows us to mold it, allows us to continue this conversation that is very much needed. And while we do that, I think a lot of departments have pivoted very well to respond to our most neediest of our residents during this pandemic. And so I think that's where, this is where, Dave, you're saying we're already moving in this direction. It may not be under, exactly, we're not checking off this list in the work plan, but we are moving towards that direction. And I can certainly appreciate that. I'd like to see more of the policy guidance that has been previously expressed by some of our council mates and myself. There was a whole memo that was included. And maybe this is where Councilmember Perales might want to resurrect it, as he was heading that piece of that memo the year it was not approved by this council. It was through a budget memo. So that's my feedback around there. I do think that there's a lot of work yet to be done. And I look forward to seeing how our policy guidance aligns with that MBA, and how we hold our departments accountable to this adherence of equity with the same metrics that we have expressed.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember.
All right, other questions or comments? Again, any comments from members of the public on this item, to support services and council appointees? Okay, Dave, I think that wraps it up.
Well, I just want to throw this out there, Mayor. Given where we are, we can definitely tackle fees and charges today and capital today, and then cancel tomorrow, and then pick back up on Monday with the community and economic recovery. Or we could stop today and just do the fees and charges and capital tomorrow. I'll just leave that in your hands, but we're prepared to, and the agenda allows us to finish up these items today, should the council want tomorrow morning off.
Yeah. Could I throw out a third suggestion and see if this, if we were to put fees and charges and capital, which tend to be pretty short discussions, as I recall, could we throw those all into Monday? Because I have not yet looked at the capital section. I don't know if my colleagues have or not, but I just.
We absolutely could. I'm seeing Jim nod, and that's actually maybe a better idea. That way we have tomorrow morning to we have so much work to do. So we can use the time well. And then Monday morning, we would start with fees and charges and capital, and then move into community and economic recovery, if that's what the council wants. Yeah.
That works for me.
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, then that's what we'll do. I appreciate all the great information, and more importantly, all the hard work.
So Mayor, just to confirm, we're off tomorrow morning then? We don't have study session?
Yep. We're
9 a.m. on Monday, I think.
I suspect some of us will be working anyway, but nonetheless, we'll see everybody again on Monday.
9 a.m. Monday. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.